Hey there, welcome back to another video. This time around, it is my epic rant on the 2024 horror film Night Swim. This film is pure wet socks. It's mushy, it's uncomfortable, and it's not any fun. And to me, it's also the epitome of the red letter media meme, fuck you, it's January. Like, this film fits that criteria to a T, and then some. It's a pool of endless trash. And it is easily the worst film that I've seen so far this year. And it's a contender already for one of the worst films of the year. And I gotta be honest, folks, this is one of the most forgettable, generic, and lame ass horror films that I've seen in years. And this film to me is primed to be a belly flop in the box office. It's already getting savage reviews, and it deserves them because this film really fucking sucks. It sucks harder than a pool cleaner. And it's a film that you really can kind of see the writing on the wall already. And what do I mean by that? On a 3 o'clock showing in the afternoon on opening weekend on Saturday, I was the only person in the theater to watch this shit. That's very telling. And I know it's January, but Megan came out in January. And that actually broke the fuck you, it's January curse a little bit for Blumhouse. But I guess I didn't learn the lesson here because this is easily one of the worst efforts from Blumhouse in years. It's directed by a guy named Bryce McGuire, who also directed and wrote the short film that this is based on. And he also sadly wrote this film adaptation of his own short as well. And I'm not going to be too harsh on him when it comes to his direction here. It's one of his first feature films. He's just kind of thrown in the deep end. He doesn't really have as much experience in the directing pool just yet, so I'm willing to give him a little bit of a pass. Also, I saw some promise here. I saw a reflection in the pool that's filled to the brim with diarrhea that just showed, you know, something that wasn't completely covered in liquid shit. So, what do I mean by that? It's a nice looking film. It's got some capable direction. I think he definitely knows how to work with camera angles in interesting ways. He knows how to shoot scenes underwater effectively. I don't think he really knows how to shoot sequences that are supposed to be tense or terrifying just yet. Uh, a lot of the scenes in the film that are trying to be scary, they fail miserably because either the directing gives away the upcoming scare, or it's shot in a way that's just so bland and basic that it doesn't really have anything to really make it stand out or pop or really get under your skin. So I think from a directorial standpoint, it's not a bad job by Bryce. I think it's decent. I think it's adequate enough. I don't think it's going to make any waves, but I also don't feel that it's a total fail. I don't. I think that he definitely has some talent, and you can see it on the screen. And I'm hoping that he gets another opportunity with maybe a film that he doesn't write, or maybe another movie that has more potential, because the potential for this was limiting from the beginning just by the concept alone, especially if you take it seriously for the majority of the story, which is sadly what Bryce did here. And the screenplay is easily the most glaring problem with Night Swim. It's about as glaring as a turd in the middle of a clean, pristine swimming pool. Everything about the swimming pool is great. The pH balance is perfect. It's the right temperature. And then there's this giant turd that's just floating in the middle of it, soiling the entire pool. And that's the script. It really is. And I think one of the biggest problems is that Bryce took this concept way too seriously for way too much of the runtime. And for those of you who don't want things spoiled, I'm going to give you a heads up here. I tend to do a lot of in depth reviews, and they tend to have a lot of spoilers, especially when I'm talking about the script and the story. So I'm just going to make this a spoiler warning right here. If you don't want the film to be spoiled, skip ahead. I will give you a little bit of a rundown here on why I think this script sucks, though. It takes itself too seriously for way too much of the runtime, way too much of the story. It's inconsistent when it comes to its tone. It's inconsistent when it comes to the characters and their motivations or their actions. And it's incredibly generic, lazy, and uninspired. And it's frankly not scary. So that's another major problem when it comes to this screenplay. But to break things down more in depth, to really dive into the depths of this script shittiness, um, I gotta go in deep here, and I gotta go in depth. So it starts off in the most predictable fashion with this scene that takes place in the past, and there's this little girl who winds up in the swimming pool, and she's asking for help, but she winds up disappearing. And then the film then flash forwards many, many years later, where now the pool and the house that's attached to the pool is eventually sold to this new family. And when the film focuses on the Waller family, that's really where things start to fall apart. Because in the opening, yeah, it's predictable and it's generic and it's cliched, right down to the predictable beats in terms of the girls in the pool, or she's near the pool, she's trying to get a toy, she falls in, some kind of ghost or whatever gets her. Opening credits. When it starts to focus on the Waller family, then it starts to feel like it's a completely different movie, and now it's just a generic family drama, and it's really more focused on the father of the family, who Ray Waller, who was a former baseball player for the Milwaukee Brewers, and he got a bout of MS, and so now he's out of the game, and his family's searching for a place for him to stay and recover, and they wind up stumbling upon this house. Of course, they don't know about the history of it. That's something that they save for later in the typical been there, done that uh, investigation scene where the mother investigates the mysterious origins of the pool, or what happened at the house, and typical stuff when it comes to these kind of films. But so much of this script is devoted to this drama with the Waller family and with Ray and him wanting to be a baseball player again. And they go and find the pool, and the pool literally has crickets in it, which I thought was so fitting, because that's pretty much the audience. At least that was the audience when I saw this fucking thing. Crickets, except for me, because there was no one else there. So there, there's even crickets in the pool, and the pool's all dirty and everything. They clean it up, and they find out from some incredibly over the top pool expert guy that it's a natural well pool, so it's fed by a well, and they go in and pull a clog out, Ray gets hurt. He gets his hand cut. Of course, before that, he fell in the pool and had a vision about him playing baseball again. Because so much of the script is centered around the relationship between Ray and the pool. Yeah, I'm not kidding. Like, that's really what it is. Because the pool, through some magic bullshit, manages to heal his MS, and now he's able to hit the ball again. But of course, there's a side effect to that because now he's acting more and more distant to his family. And I'm like, doesn't this sound familiar? Oh, yeah, I saw this in a film called The Amityville Horror. Like, this really could have fit as one of those Amityville sequels where, oh, it was Amityville Horror, but with a clock. It was Amityville Horror, but with a haunted floor lamp. It was Amityville Horror, but with a mirror. But this time around, it's a pool. It's the Amityville pool. And so, yeah, he's slowly coming apart throughout the film. And he's driving a wedge between him and his family. You got this typical stuff with the wife and the husband and the strife that's going on because of the haunted presence or whatever in the pool. You have the kids and they start to see weird things. It's also one of those screenplays where nothing fucking happens for the majority of the runtime. That's another problem. Not only are you taking yourself too seriously when it comes to the tone of this story, it's a movie about a haunted pool. Get over your fucking self, man. Have some fun. And if that's not bad enough, now it's a screenplay where nothing happens for a majority of the movie. At least nothing memorable. Nothing remotely scary or suspenseful. Oh my god, a game of underwater quarters? Holy shit, that's the scariest shit ever. The ghost threw some quarters in the pool, and the kid is trying to grab the quarters and then winds up near one part of the pool. I think the filter, and some ghost hand grabs him. Wow. That was really worth the wait. I think that happened like 40 minutes into the movie because prior to that, nothing else of note had really happened other than uh, establishing the family in the most generic and bland and boring way possible and having scenes where you get to see Ray Waller's son go to baseball practice. Just riveting scenes. Or Izzy Waller and her crush on this guy who's a captain of the swim team. And speaking of Izzy, you have a whole scene that's in the trailer where she plays a game of Marco Polo. And that was so unbelievably shitty that while I was just sitting there alone with only a large Mountain Dew to drown my sorrows, I audibly ranted at the screen at this moment because it's so fucking dumb. So she's playing this game of Marco Polo with this boy, and it goes how you think it does. She's in the pool, she's closing her eyes, she's going, Marco, Marco, and then behind her, a ghost pops up, and then it goes, Polo. I was like, you gotta, that would be fucking kidding. It's fucking stupid. Like, I was like, that is so fucking stupid. This movie sucks. Like, really? Spooky games of Marco Polo? Oh my god. I can't handle it. It's the scariest shit ever. So spooky games of Marco Polo that don't do anything. The writer, I guess he thought that this was brilliant because he does it twice. He does it here with the ghost going Polo, and then he does it again with Ray when he's possessed by the pool. And he's doing the Marco Polo bit. And I'm like, this is dumb. It's not actually remotely clever. Why are you doubling down on this? But then again, this is a screenplay that has a sequence that plays out exactly like this. So you have a scene, you have, after all this weird stuff has been happening with the pool, the lights have been going off on their own, the kids are seeing apparitions and stuff, uh, just weird happenings. The cat goes missing. They still decide to have a pool party with the neighborhood kids. And while they're getting the party ready and they're in the kitchen making snacks and stuff like that, the wife, the mother, Eve, she is talking with this realtor lady who sold them the house, and she has this suspicion that there's something more to this pool, that there's something just off about this house. And she's remembering things that her kids told her about this. I think it was her son. The son told her at one point, Elliot, that there's some kind of girl named Rebecca that he saw when he was in the pool earlier, and it creeped him out. And she talks to the realtor lady, and she's trying to get information from her, and it's supposed to be serious and straightforward and all that, and it turns out to be just handled so piss poorly, because it's supposed to be a serious scene about her trying to uncover the truth about what's happening with the pool in her house and talking to the realtor lady, and the realtor lady just treats it like it's a total joke, and so does the screenwriter. This is a real line of dialogue from this scene when she's asked by Eve about the truth about the house, and the realtor lady's all like, I didn't want to poo in your pudding. Actual line of dialogue in this movie. We're like, okay, that's really bad. But what's even worse is that, like, a couple scenes later, Wyatt Russell is underwater, and he's got this other kid on his shoulders, and he's fighting with this other guy in the pool to see who's king of the pool or whatever. And this brown liquid pops out from the drain and starts flowing towards Wyatt Russell. And I'm like, that is literal shit. That looks like actual shit. Looks like diarrhea, doo-doo butter in the water, and Wyatt Russell's character swallows it. So I'm like, you have a line that says, I didn't want to poo in your pudding, and then you literally see poo. You see what looks like shit in the water. It's like, oh my God. This film, man. Are you gotta be kidding me. Like, that is so awful. That's so rank. And so what follows after that is your typical stuff that happens in a movie like this, with a haunted spirit of some kind of entity, where somebody gets possessed, starts acting weird, and then someone in the family is now trying to investigate the mystery. And this just shows you how lazy and uninspired and half-assed this script is. The explanation for why any of this is happening, why there are these spirits, is that it's just some generic ghost well. It's some evil water that grants wishes. And in order for you to get the wish granted, you have to provide a sacrifice. I'm like, what is this cliched trash? Like, really? And the mother, of course, she does her investigation, goes online, finds a bunch of stuff, finds out that Rebecca isn't the only person that died at this house or in this pool, and goes and tries to find Rebecca's mom, and Rebecca's mom is acting all weird, of course, and she gets possessed, and warns her, and gives her the backstory, and tells her why the water is trying to kill their son, or why the water is doing what it's doing, why it's okay. You can have a line of dialogue where it's like, it's bad water. I'm like, yeah, just like, this is a bad movie. and a bad script. And it culminates in just typical fashion where the youngest kid, he's the one that's going to be sacrificed. The mother goes out of her way to save him, and she finds a way to get to the spirit world or under the water because there's an extra portal under there. Saves her son, but because the water needs a soul, the father winds up sacrificing himself after the spirit expels itself from his body. So you have this heartfelt, tragic ending, but it doesn't work because I did not give a flying fuck about anyone in this film for the most part, let alone about this tragic ending. The biggest tragedy is that this film even got made, even got released, at least in theaters. That this got a $15 million budget. That's the biggest tragedy, not Wyatt Russell's character sacrificing himself at the end of the movie. So yeah, just an incredibly generic, predictable plot. The character depth is very shallow, and there's I will give the script this when it comes to Ray. There's I think that's who his name the character, yeah, Ray Waller. You do kind of sympathize with him initially because he's this former athlete and this former ball player and he got MS and it's completely something out of his control and the pool manipulates him and you do kind of want to see him make it out okay, but the film's just so generic and bland and boring for the majority of the time when it comes to the story that eventually you don't really care either way about him, which is unfortunate because there's some okay building blocks there when it comes to his character. Same thing goes for the rest of the family, even the wife or the kids. Like they're not particularly unlikable. I'll give the screenplay that. These aren't particularly unlikable characters, the Waller family, but they're incredibly generic. There's not anything that really makes them stand out. And that's definitely a problem because you eventually just get tired of it because it just is the same old stuff that you've seen a million times when it comes to the character dynamics, when it comes to the family. And when you get to the twist, like it's just a throwaway. There's no effort put into it. And there's just so many inconsistencies when it comes to this script that are frustrating. The tonal shifts. It's super serious, family drama, to the point it might as well be a fucking soap opera. And then you got silly games of Marco Polo with ghosts. And you got really cheap jump scares. Then you have inconsistencies when it comes to the characters and their motivations and the way that they act. In particular, the son. The writer really dropped the ball when it comes to how Elliot was written as a character. He starts out as a character that's smart. He is aware that there's something strange going on with this pool, and he doesn't trust what's happening, and he thinks that there's something potentially supernatural going on with it, to the point where he's bringing out a camera and recording the pool during the pool party. He's aware and he's on alert. But then there's a scene near the end where we have to get him trapped in the pool so he can have the climax where the mother goes in and saves him. So all of that's thrown out the window now. All of that goes down the drain. And now all of a sudden he's a total fucking moron who goes to the pool late at night and sees what he thinks is his cat. He hears the cat's collar and the bell, and hears the cat meow, sees the shadow, so he thinks that the cat is out there, but it's been established that his cat has been missing for at least months or at least a few weeks, and it's also been established that his collar was left behind. So He knows that they have the collar. So unless the ghost or the spirit of the entity teleported the collar back onto the ghost pussy or some shit, there's no reason why there should be any bell. There's no reason why he should even think that the cat is alive or actually back, or of all things spending time on a floating pool flamingo. It's a cat. Cats don't want to be near water. Just think. Just think for a second. But no, the writing has to make him a total lunkhead now. He's an idiot now, out of nowhere. And he's going in to check on the see where the cat is. And of course the ghost hand grabs him and pulls him in the pool. And now he's down in the sunken place, and it's up to his mom to try to save him. And you're just like, really? Really, Bryce? You couldn't have been consistent there? It was almost like he just said fuck it at that moment. It was like, I don't give a shit about this movie. It's gonna suck. It's a Blumhouse horror film. It's PG-13. They're slating this film for a January release. Let's just get this shit done, and then I'm gonna get my paycheck. That's really what it felt like. He quit. He gave up. He was just like, oh, now he's an idiot. I'm just like, God. Just inconsistencies when it comes to writing, or just inconsistencies in general, are just maddening to me. And here's the kicker. This probably still would have sucked even if there were consistencies, but with the inconsistencies, it just makes a film that's already really bad even worse. It makes it so it drowns itself due to its poor decisions and its poor writing. And if you ask me, the writer should have drowned this whole idea to begin with and started over from scratch. And I think a good and potentially really interesting direction to take this plot is to take it not seriously at all. To make this a satire, to make this a parody of fuck you, it's January Blumhouse kind of horror movies. Make it like the Scary Movie of these cheap, low rent, low effort Blumhouse horror films. And you go for broke. You go all out with the silly idea of the haunted swimming pool. But no, instead, let's take it super serious for the most of the time, most of the running time, and just be totally inconsistent and just completely drop a turd. Just drop the turd in the swimming pool, and I guess hope no one will notice, but you can smell it from a mile away. The cast, that's another element of the film that's not terrible. Like Wyatt Russell as Ray, it's not that bad of a performance. He's doing the best he possibly can with such a weak script and just a weak narrative overall. Kerry Condon is in the same boat as his wife Eve. Even the kids, Amélie Hoeferle as Izzy and Gavin Warren as Elliot, and they are also pretty good. I would say Jodie Long as Kay. I think she's the realtor lady. She was a bit much. Definitely was chewing up the scenery with her cheeriness to the point where it almost gave me a toothache. But the main cast, not bad. In fact, I wish that they were just in a much better movie. And I think in a lot of ways the film lets them down because their performances are not bad. This isn't a film that features bad acting for the most part. That's not really one of the things that sinks this film. It's the story, it's the script. That's really the most glaring flaw when it comes to Night Swim. and is the main reason why this pool should just be closed indefinitely for people's safety. The cinematography by Charlie Saroff, it's okay. It's decent enough for this kind of film. It's not particularly incredible. It's not going to blow you away. It's not going to have shots that are going to make you go, holy shit, that's awesome, that's amazing. But it has shots that are decent enough in terms of the way that they're displayed and put together. And I think he and the director have a decent rapport visually. The score by Mark Corvin, the same guy did the score for the Black Phone, which I honestly think that score is pretty decent. The score here, though, it's either forgettable or it sounds like saxophones are fucking each other in a twisted orgy that is just absolute torture to your eardrums. Other than that, uh, pretty much a nothing score. It's fitting for a nothing film. This film is boring. It's mostly pointless because so much of it is been there, done that bullshit that you've seen in a million other horror films or a million other films of its type. It doesn't really do anything new or fun when it comes to the concept of a killer swimming pool. And as a horror film, it's not scary at all. The jump scares are telegraphed and the kind that makes you roll your eyes through the back of your fucking head. The CGI ghosts are laughable in terms of their designs. I mean, one of them looked like something that was a reject from Pirates of the Caribbean. I'm like, where's Jack Sparrow when you need him? Could use a bottle of rum too, because hey, that would make this experience of watching this shit a hell of a lot more enjoyable. Because watching this shit sober is painful. And yeah, it's just a film that is crap. It's just really bad. This film is just a flop. It's a belly flop into an empty pool, face first onto the fucking concrete. The scene in Caddyshack where everyone in the pool thought that there was a turd that was floating around in the pool, but it was just a baby Ruth. That was more harrowing, that was more intense, and that was more scary than anything in this so-called horror film. If you have a thought in your head about going to see this film, do yourself a favor and don't. Don't go see this movie. It would be like willingly swimming in raw sewage. Just stay away. If you want to, if you're in the mood for a swim, go out and go for a swim at the local rec center or at a hotel or at a friend's place. Hell, have a pool party with your friends, with alcohol and with snacks. And I guarantee you will have a better time than watching Night Swim. So, anyway, thanks for watching my rant on Night Swim. And until next time, I'll see you later. See ya.